Hey, aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Aloha Friday Real Estate Show. I'm Dylan Donaka. I'll be your host today. And today's an exciting day. We have a new era in the Living in Hawaii show. You guys have been seeing this for years, every other week. And this is going to be the first of our weekly shows. We're going to go to one show every Friday. And we are bringing in a bunch of new friends to help contribute to the show and answer your questions and bring their opinions and market updates and all the good stuff that we normally do. So I'm gonna get right into it and talk about what we're gonna do today. So today we are gonna we're I just introed that. So we're introducing all of our new friends, the new crew that will be part of this. We have several agents from all the different islands that will be rotating through depending on the topic and what we want to talk about that week. And we'll do some of the same content that we do on the normal show with Peter. Some of it will change based on maybe some specialty shows like talking about luxury or talking about different lifestyle things. And of course, if you have questions, you can always ask us and submit those, and then we will focus on those. And we do have a question of the day today, which we will get into. But before we do that, we're going to get into introductions, and I'm going to bring everybody on. So we got lots of friends with us today, and we're going to go around the horn and introduce everybody. We have some questions that I asked them to answer, so they have some guidance on what we want them to talk about. But we're just going to get right into it, and I'm going to start because Carol is next to me with Carol Spierling here on the Big Island.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Carol Spierling here. I've been here on the Big Island. I moved here in 1988. So I've been here a long time, a lot longer than a lot of people have been around too. And, you know, Quano was a very different place back then, and I've seen it grow and I've grown with it. And I've been very fortunate to be here. So super excited. I currently live on the west side. I'm in a little town just south of Kailua Kona that's called Kealakekua. And I'm very fortunate to live on an old ranch, 35 acres. And I'm in an old ranch house, which is, you can kind of see behind me, it's all single wall construction. And then there's horses and there's dogs and cats and everything. And that's kind of my family. So really love living up here, and it's an old growth ohia forest. So about 2,300 elevation, we get rain every afternoon, and then it's sunny in the morning. So it's just a really beautiful place to live. Being here in Hawaii, from Central California has been great because I wasn't really into the fog and the cold, and, you know, just California's just wasn't my bag back in the late 80s. It was time for a change, and you can only live with your parents for so long. So had to get here. The first year, you know, was tough. You don't know anybody, you don't know anything. And I just made myself stay for 1 year. And here I am 35 years later, and love it, not going anywhere. And, you know, just it's a really great lifestyle. And I've just made a lot of really great friends and contacts, and just, you know, the neighborhoods are so important to integrate yourself into. And kind of something recently that's happened with me is that, you know, just in my neighborhood, it was a situation of see something, say something, do something. And, you know, you just have to watch out for your neighbors, because then they're going to watch out for you. So that's the beauty of Big Island and living in Hawaii overall, is that we all watch out for each other, and we're a community. The other question Dylan was asking is, what is something fun to do on a Saturday? So as I mentioned, I have dogs and horses. So every morning I walk my dogs. We go for a couple miles every morning just to keep them so that they don't drive me crazy all day while I'm working. And so I do that most every morning. And then I take my horses. I have quarter horses. They are cutting bred. So we have different events with the Hawaii Island Cutting Horse Association. And so I'll go to them and participate in that. And great fun. It's either, you know, in Waimea or Honaka at, you know, different arenas. And so I do that, and I haul out. I've got a truck and a trailer. And on the other Saturdays that I'm not doing that, you might find me on the tennis court, because I play tennis about 3 or 4 days a week and love it, love it, love it. So that's kind of my bag and what I do. And, you know, it's living in Hawaii. It's the best life ever.
Love it. And fun fact about Carol is she's known me since I was a teenager. We worked together on a ranch, and I was good friends with um, her significant other at the time, son. And so it's a long story, but we've known each other for a very, very long time. So it's super cool to get to work with her today.
Yes,
So
for sure.
your go-to gal for ranch, land, horse stuff, all of that farm stuff. So thanks for being here, Carol.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna jump all the way to the other side of the state to Kauai, and we have Ronnie Margolis. What's happening, Ronnie? Mute, you're on mute. There we go.
It's a beautiful Aloha Friday here on the Garden Island of Kauai. And my name is Ronnie Margolis. I'm a realtor broker here, as Dylan said. I came here, well, I was born and raised in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Moved out to Los Angeles in the mid-'80s, became a Dodgers fan as well as a Phillies fan, and then have been on Kauai for just over 20 years. And what can I say? Living in Hawaii, my wife likes to say, living on Kauai is the longest vacation you'll ever have. And so we love living here. And one of the things that I was surprised about is how vibrant our arts community is, musicians and theater groups, and how spectacular all the nonprofits are that do things for the community. It's made my life very enriching. And what do I do on Saturdays? Well, of course, you can tell by looking at my age, I play pickleball. And of course, I don't just do it on Saturdays either. And if we stay on this show long enough, I'm sure Carol will be attenuating her interests and moving over to the bright side of pickleball. No, she says never. And I love walking my dog. We have something here that's very unique to Kauai. It's called Ke'ala Hele Makala'a. It means the path by the sea. It's about 8 miles and runs right along the ocean. And by the time it's finished, it will be 17 miles going all the way from Donkey Beach to the airport.
Something you definitely gotta check out if you visit, right?
Absolutely.
Love it. Thanks for being here. All right, we're gonna jump back to the Big Island now. We're kind of all over the place, but that's just how the layout ended up being on the show. So we're gonna jump over to Ali here on the Big Island. Ali, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Dylan. Thank you. My name is Ali Rabin, and I live in Honanau, which is in South Kona on the west side of the island. And I have lived here for 19 years. I came immediately after I graduated college in Boston and couldn't be happier. That was just too cold. I am an East Coaster, but I've been here for 19 years and have started a family and just absolutely love it here. My favorite thing to do on a Saturday, as long as there's caffeine and coffee involved, I'm here for it. I like to wake up very early while the sun is just rising and nobody else in my house is awake. And I live on a 6-acre farm, which is a Kamehameha School's leasehold property, which we can talk about at a later date. About 2 miles up a 4-wheel drive, very remote road. And it's overlooking Kealakekua Bay. So I like to sit quietly and drink my coffee in peace and just meditate, looking at the most incredible views. And then when my 2 boys, I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old, wake up, it's all about running the dogs. They're my dogs, Carol. So that's what I call it. As long as we're getting in the ocean, maybe surfing, getting some outdoor time, a lot of beach and time with the family is what we like to do on Saturdays. And you know what? We love movies too. So we're all about getting down to Keauhou Shopping Center and checking out a movie if there's anything great. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. This is an incredible island and I've loved being here for all 19 years and I really can't see myself moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for adding in about the leasehold fact, because that's always a thing that comes up on this show a lot of times. And we do have a resident expert that has lived on one for many, many years. So we always go to Ali for that because they're There's always
complicated.
questions. Leasehold questions are very common. So
I had a
awesome.
question for Ali. I wanted to know, what's a movie theater?
What a great question. None of us do that anymore, right? My husband was just talking
No, we
about
don't have any. That's why I asked.
There's no movie theaters on Kauai anymore?
no movie theater.
Wow.
That's
Didn't know
sad
that.
to me, Ronnie. I'm not ready for that.
Well, let's find out what else is going on in Kauai from Kat.
Well, we do have a theater, sort of. Aloha, everyone. My name is Kat, and I am also on Kauai. And we do have the Waimea Theater shows movies every now and then. However, the AC sometimes doesn't work so great, and the sound is blaring. And sometimes the fire alarm goes off. So that's fun. So anyway, so I have been on Kauai for 11 years, and I moved from Oakland, California, where I lived for 15 years as a professional recording and touring musician. And then I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, I got to get out of Oakland. And so we had friends that were living on Kauai that we had been visiting year after year, and me and my husband just jumped ship and landed in Kauai and have not looked back. And it's been such a wonderful time living here. I live on the south side in Kalaheo, and
What made you pick Kauai over a different island?
well, we had friends living here, and so we were visiting them every year. And every time I would get on the plane to go back to Oakland, I would I was just like, I can't go back. I can't. And every time I would come to Kauai, I would just feel like, oh my gosh, this is home. So I tuned into my intuitions, and I was just like, we just got to do it. Just do it. And so we did.
Take action, right?
Yeah. I was like, all right. I mean, living in Kauai and moving is a scary, scary jump. But this is what's great about this show, is that living in Hawaii, we are here to give everybody all of our information to make the move much easier and digestible. So I have not looked back. I love it. On Saturdays, I have 2 young kids, 8 and 10. And so I like to run them as my dogs too at the beach. And then if every now and then I'll go play a jazz night by my house at this cool little bar, and it's called Drift Bar, and it's kind of like indoor outdoor by a creek, and so it's really cool. It gives my creative juices. I feed my creative wolf that way. So that's me on
Love it.
Kauai.
So our resident musicians, Ronnie and Kat, if you guys got any questions about the music scene or that community, we got folks that know all about it. So awesome. All right, now back over to the Big Island, zigzagging the state. We got Loni Mercado, who lives on the south side of the Big Island. She'll tell you more about that. But Loni, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Loni Mercado. I was born and raised on the island of Oahu, and I relocated to the Big Island right out of high school. I used to visit during my summer vacations. My mom lived here, and that's what made me fall in love with the Big Island. So I've been a resident of the Big Island for the past 25 years now. And I live down south in the Kauai district, which is totally different from where I grew up in the city in Oahu. So my favorite thing to do on Saturdays now is I like to bow hunt with my family. And when we're in season, I also volunteer as a softball coach at the local high school down in Pahala. And so that's my favorite things to do. Definitely different from island to island. So it really depends on where you're looking to live and the lifestyle that you're looking to live. That's super important when you're choosing which island you want to live on. So thankful for you to be here and join us on this show, because we're going to have great, awesome tips for you and hopefully help you narrow down where you want to live in Hawaii.
So tell us more about bow hunting, Loni. What are you primarily hunting for?
We
those
have,
that are wondering.
we have lots of different game here. We do pig hunting, of course. We also have sheep and we have goat, and we do have wild cow. So it's interesting. There's a diverse, and we hunt for sustenance. That's what we do to live. We fill our family's freezers. So it's another sustainable way of living is to bow hunt. And of course, for fun too, because the challenge is there. Definitely. It's kind of like hunting for your homes here in Hawaii. It's a challenge.
I love
And
it.
Loni, you've done fundraisers. You do like smoked meat fundraisers for your son and stuff.
Oh,
Is that,
yeah.
and that's all part
Yeah.
of what, after you hunt, you process, and then you do like a fundraiser.
Absolutely. Thanks, Carol. Yeah, we do. We actually just graduated our last child. So I have 3 children, and our last one graduated high school finally. So we're entering a new phase in our life, which is kind of interesting. So that's going to be the next journey for my husband and I. Now we're going to be empty nesters. And so that's going to be interesting. But I noticed that I have a lot of clients that are empty nesters, and they're looking to come to Hawaii and live out their long vacation. Like we talked about earlier. And they try different things. So we actually do take a lot of our friends and family and even clients on these hunting adventures with us.
And I think a little, something people don't realize sometimes is that Hawaii never had any indigenous or native animals, right? So everything that's here
Right.
was brought here, and a lot of times is invasive and actually destructive to the environment. So it's actually very important that there are folks out there like Loni who take those animals off the land and that eat our native stuff. And so it's definitely a win-win. People get to get fed, plus it's helps sustain the native environment that isn't set up to deal with goats and sheep and things like that. So there's definitely an abundance of that here. So if you're into eating goats and sheep, there's choke food, right? There's no shortage of food here on the Big Island, definitely. So.
And the pigs are so
Awesome.
destructive. The
Pigs are
they're just
worst.
so
Very much
destructive.
so.
They'll just
Yeah.
ruin your yard in a heartbeat. And I have one here, on my property that in the last couple of days, I found out that he's living under my house. And I hear these sounds, and then my dogs go nuts because I keep them locked up at night because I don't want the pig to get them. And then in the morning, I stomp on the floor, and he comes running out from under my house after he's dug up my yard. So yeah, they're there, and yeah, they're definitely.
Maybe Lonnie's got to camp out on your lanai with her bow, I think. Love it. Thank you, Loni. All right, and then now we're gonna go to Maui. Chelsea's over on Maui, and she'll share a little bit about herself.
Yeah, so Loni, my parents live on the Big Island, and I guess I gotta get you hooked up with my mom because she's like 5 o'clock in the morning in her nightgown, jumping on pigs and catching pigs in her backyard. So
She's my kind of gal.
yeah, she is. But aloha, I'm Chelsea Fernandez, and I live on Maui. I've been here for about 20 years now. But born and raised on the Big Island, East Side, graduated from Hilo High. Us Hawaii people are always proud of our high school, so go Vikings. After I graduated, I spent some time in the Army, and then I came here to Maui. When I moved here, I didn't know anyone. I went to UH Maui College, and now it's 20 years later. I got 4 kids and 3 grandkids. So,
Which you would never believe by looking at Chelsea. So
yeah. So now I got my 4 kids and the grandkids. What we do on Saturdays is we clean house. So I spend my Saturdays like yelling at them, clean house, because we don't have any other time during the week. And if we're not cleaning house, we're doing other things. We do a lot of things within our veteran community. My boys, 13 and 16 now, are in Navy Sea Cadets and Civil Air Patrol. And I am part of several veteran organizations on Maui, the VFW, Korean War Veterans, and also the Maui County Veterans Council. I even started a women veterans organization. So our schedule is full here on Maui, never a dull moment.
awesome. Does everybody live with you, Chelsea?
They used to, and now they don't, because that would be 10 of us in here.
Awesome. And fun fact about the smallness of the Hawaii world is the unit that Chelsea and her husband were in. They were in a few years before I got there, but it was the same unit that I was in, and eventually
Yep.
became the company commander of. So super cool connections there. We know a lot of the same people who had overlapping times in service, but yeah, it's very, very small world in a lot of different ways
Yeah.
here. So
Yep. The new first sergeant that's now the unit. I knew him when he was a
private,
PFC.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he was calling me, "Hey, Sarge."
Love it, love
They,
it.
they say there's 6 degrees of separation. You've heard that. On Kauai,
Mhm.
we say there's 1
There's
degree
one.
of separation.
There's only one. All right, and to round out our statewide tour, we're gonna end with Patrick before we get into our big question. So, Patrick, tell us about yourself.
Aloha. So, a little bit about me. I actually am a Kalaheo High School grad from here on Oahu. My dad was military. I grew up in a military family, and we originally came to Hawaii and were stationed here. As soon as I graduated high school, I joined the Army Reserve myself, and off to training and then off to college on the mainland. Didn't make it back here until 2016. So ended up the lion's share of that time was actually in the Denver, Colorado area, which is beautiful and gorgeous in its own way. But the winters were just kind of getting old fast. And the missus and I, we always were coming through Hawaii because she's originally from China, and we were always doing layovers on the way to visit friends and family, on the way to visiting more friends and family. And one time on our trips, we're like, hey, let's go look at some houses. And next thing you know, I'm back in Hawaii. So love that. On a Saturday, I actually have a 9-year-old son. And so Saturday mornings for him is actually Chinese language school. So so getting him up in the morning and getting him out the door to Chinese language school is like his Saturday thing. But then when he's done with that, then we try to find something fun to do together because he's got a pretty busy week Monday through Friday. So we try to do something fun with him on Saturdays.
Is there a lot of Chinese language schools? Or is that like a one? I mean, I'm not familiar with any on the Big Island, that's why. But how's that scene look on Oahu?
There's quite a few actually over in Chinatown. There's a significant number. The one that our son goes to is one called Munlun. It's actually been around like almost 100 years. They own their own building. They've got like all the grade levels. They could actually like graduate Chinese language school. And so
Wow.
he was actually learning Chinese at home, but it got to a point where we just couldn't get him to like the next step. And when I say we, I mean my wife, not me. Let's qualify that. My Chinese is non-existent. I know how to yell at my kid in Chinese, and that's about it. But it got to the point where he needed to learn how to read and write, and that's the hardest part. Because unlike English, where you can sound out words and hooked on phonics and all that stuff, it's just pure memorization. Learning these characters, learning what they sound like. You just have to memorize it. There's no easy path, and we just didn't have the bandwidth or the patience to do that with a young child. So we're like, okay, professionals, let's move this over.
Awesome. And so I think this is cool, right? You can see like around the state the diversity of experiences and backgrounds of everybody. We have everything from like moved here and from the East Coast to lived here growing up and then moved away and then came back versus grew up on one island and moved to another island. So all that stuff is here, and this is just not a small size. This is probably about half of the crew that we'll have going forward. So we'll introduce more people as they come on, and so just know that there's just a wealth of knowledge and expertise when you're looking for specific information in different areas. So in today's show, what we're going to focus on, and we'll go back around the horn here, is what is something that surprised you about living in Hawaii? And I think this is a question that definitely applies to people that may have moved here, but I can tell you, I'll start, right? The thing that surprised me about living here is something that I already knew but didn't realize until I had been other places in the world, because when you kind of grow up here, you take things for granted. And one of the things that surprised me about Hawaii is how the weather is always perfect, like 100% of the time, every single day of the year. And I've been all over the world, and I've never been to a place that has as consistently amazing weather as Hawaii has. And so people talk about that, and I think sometimes it's cliche, but it's absolutely true. And I specifically feel like Kona on the Big Island has the best weather of the entire state. Like, it never gets too windy. It rains just enough and not too much. It's never too hot. You can live at elevation and it's perfect. So that was something that I grew up taking for granted, but now I very much value, because I think it's surprising when you go other places and you're like, it's can be miserable most of the year. So I think those of you who came from other places in the mainland probably can attest to that. But that's kind of getting the discussion started. So let's actually go in reverse order, and let's start with Patrick, and then go back around the screen. But what's something that surprised you about living here, Patrick, especially having that experience of being here, growing up, and then leaving and then coming back? I think that definitely helps give some different perspective.
Absolutely. So I like to call it the left turn Aloha. So we've got a lot of highways here on Oahu. They're just 2-lane highways. So when traffic builds up, it's not uncommon when you want to make a left turn, traffic backs up behind you, the oncoming person will stop, flash their lights, and let you cross. And you think, oh yeah, no big deal. That happens here where I live too, but not to the same level as it does here. It's like a common practice. So, yep. And just the level that you see it at, because you do see it on the mainland, but it's not just as prevalent. And just that aloha, that courtesy, on the roads, you just don't see everywhere else. And that, I remembered it when I was here before, but then, went to the mainland, and then, and actually went to New York first, where, I got my driver's license in Hawaii, but I learned to drive in New York. But yeah, just that prevalence of courtesy on the road, where people are just like, yeah, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. It's just awesome to see.
Yep, that is something definitely I think you take for granted growing up here. And what's funny about that is I've been teaching my son how to drive, right? He's right in the latter stages. Next month on the 25th, he can get his license. So he's had his permit for like 5.5 months. And that's something I had to teach him not to do, because like if you take the driving test and you do that, you're going to get in trouble, right? Like that's not the right way to drive. But like when you grow up seeing it, it's just like you emulate it, and it's almost like I have to make sure that he understood. Like, look, it's cool. Everybody does the right thing to do, but when you take your driving test, don't stop randomly and let somebody make a left turn, because you're probably going to fail the driving test when you do that. And I got to get you past the driving test. So that's great. That's an awesome point. All right, what about you, Chelsea?
So, just like how you said, we lived in Hawaii our whole life. So you don't realize what surprises you until you go away. And being able to visit places around the world, I realized that Hawaii is really a mixed pot of cultures. And I haven't really been to a place that has and celebrates in the magnitude the different cultures like how Hawaii does. So that's what really surprised me. Like, when you go to one place and it's just, one type of culture, and they just perpetuate that one culture. And it's like, oh, wow, what about this? What about that? What about Hawaiians? What about Filipino? What about Puerto Ricans? There's, you don't get that at other places that I've seen, like how we do in Hawaii, where every day there's some kind of holiday and some kind of.
Or it's like we're in graduation season right now, and so there's graduation parties, or even if you go to any type of like big gathering, right, a wedding or anything like that, the food is so diverse, right, because of all the cultures that come together. So you end up having Korean food and Japanese food with pizza, and like it's just the most random compilation of food when you have these large gatherings. It's like we lost Chelsea, but anyways, that is a great point. I definitely agree with that, and it's definitely reflected in our food for sure when we have celebrations and gatherings.
And it seems to me that what she said is that it's just so you go to different places and different cultures, like you say, will talk about other cultures, not always in a great way, and they'll just different thing. Whereas here, everybody's the same. We're just such a big melting pot that it really doesn't matter, because everybody's the same, and you treat everybody as you would like to be treated, and that's how you're treated. And and it really doesn't matter if you're Filipino or Japanese or Chinese or Haole or anything. We're all the same, because we're all just in such a big melting pot here.
Yeah, and we celebrate. There's something to celebrate every day in some culture, so that's cool.
Love that. All right, Loni, what you got? What surprised you?
Well, Growing up, born and raised here in Hawaii, I was surprised to find out that I don't have 5 million aunties and uncles. They're just a form of expression, just like sir and ma'am, right? You respect your elders. And I said, what? I don't have all these aunties and uncles. But truthfully, to your heart, they are aunties and uncles. Like we said, it's such a diverse melting pot here in Hawaii that it doesn't matter your race, your ethnic background, your skin color, it doesn't matter, your auntie or uncle. And that goes in line with the respect that we all show, kind of like how Patrick was saying, we just show the aloha spirit, and that's part of it. But I was surprised. I said, I don't have all these aunties and uncles technically, but in our hearts, they are. So that was what I was surprised about. Being raised here in Hawaii, I thought I had all these aunties, uncles, nephews, nieces, cousins, and I only have me and my brother, and that's it in my family. So I said, wow, how did I get all these bonus family members? But yeah, it surprised me, the aloha spirit that we have here in Hawaii.
That's definitely something that's special for sure. And it's funny because that's a question I also get from my kids is like, what kind of uncle is this? You know, they call everybody uncle, they call everybody auntie, but when they're introduced as like, hey, this is Auntie Loni, you know, afterwards they'll be like, what kind is Auntie Loni like auntie or like just auntie? You know, like they gotta know, they gotta qualify. So yeah, that's a definite and that's something that I think are definitely our clients that we meet that move here really find they're surprised by, but they really find that's cool that you know our kids will always refer to them as auntie and uncle just because it's a sign of respect, and that's what we do here. So love that. And you know what I'm told, I don't know if you guys have heard this, is that's really embedded in Hawaiian culture, because back in the the pre-Western days, like children were really raised by the village, right? It wasn't just your parents that were responsible for you. Like everybody was your parent in your village, and so that was something that you just had that parental level of respect for everybody that was your elder, because that's just the way it was. There was collective responsibility, and it's something that has kind of perpetuated on, and it's definitely a super cool thing. So yes, that's a good reminder. Awesome. Kat, what you got?
I also am so into the whole village aspect of raising the kids, because it helps so much, because with my kids, you know, you can be like, oh, go over auntie's house, go over uncle's house, you know, like just hang out, get out of my hair for a second, hang out with them, and they'll be able to like take care of them, and you know they're in good hands, and it's great. But so we're talking about things that surprised. So what surprised me from moving from the mainland to Kauai is, along with the village aspect, there's lots of critters. So all of these little, it's just a nonstop thing where you have to, Chelsea, like every Saturday is cleaning day, to stop the critters from coming in the house. Like there's the kids are constantly chasing geckos out of the house, you know, pick them up, throw them out of the house. I don't want the gecko poop everywhere. Or like even like cane spiders and ants and roaches. There's lots of critters living on an island. So that's one of the main things that surprised me, is just the constant the maintenance. I mean, along with like maintenance of just yard maintenance, because everything grows constantly. There's maintenance of keeping up the house so that you know, my kids drop little Dorito crumbs everywhere, and all of a sudden there's like an ant farm coming to get the Dorito crumbs. So it's like, that's surprising, and it's a constant thing. So it's an island, island life.
It's a battle you cannot win, right? If you think you're gonna rid your house of critters, it's absolutely a battle you will not win. You can maintain it, you can do your best, but you will not win that battle. So at some point there has to be acceptance of the fact that, just like I love going into a house to show a house, and there's like a dead cockroach on the floor, and because people freak out about that, right? And it's like, but that's going to be a common occurrence. If you can't get used to that, this is probably not the place for you, because it's not a one-off. You know, this is a very common occurrence, and usually they're going to be running around. They're not going to be dead on the floor. So,
and this is why we got chickens.
Yeah.
There you go.
So my son told me this joke. He's like, Mom, I have a realtor question. So if we have 5 ants in the house and 5 ants more come in, do we have 10 ants? A good one.
That's a good one.
And the other thing to think about, and how I always think about, because I don't have kids, and I'm just here, but I always look at it that my house is clean enough to be healthy and dirty enough to be happy. So I don't, everybody needs a place to live. So I don't really go into the corners and do everything and clean, because everybody needs a place to live, but it's clean enough to be healthy and dirty enough to be happy.
That is a good perspective right there. Words of wisdom. Yes. All right, Ali, coming from the East Coast, what surprised you?
Yeah. So I think Carol touched on this a little bit, but to me, what was surprising is how incredibly strong the community ties are especially on this island, on the Big Island. So I came and didn't have any family. I'm married now with children, so I have my own small family, but my extended family is on the East Coast. We are an incredibly close family, and it's hard to be so far from them. But the people that I've met in this community have held me and have been there for me, and they show up for me in a way that is just second to none, and it's kept me here. And Hawaii is a very transient place. There are people that come and go, but it's not the dripping avocados and mangoes and the sunsets and the surf and the incredible lifestyle that keeps me here. And I think a lot of people here, it's actually the connection with the beautiful people and the sense of community that I've never experienced anywhere else. I've done tons of traveling and I've lived a lot of different places, but the community of people here is incredible. So, without family, you can create your own family. And my tips would be to take your time and to really listen when you get here, and know that this is a really small place. And so you're going to want to do what matters and maybe give back to the community so that it comes back to you. So it can be incredibly challenging, I think, a challenging dynamic for newcomers, but just be patient and be persistent, respect the local culture, and know that it will come back to you tenfold. So
I love it. That is a great point. Yeah, definitely. And that's true whether you moved here or not. I mean, I think that's something we all benefit from, is the community. I mean, just going back to the auntie and uncle thing, right? Like, there's like this collective community of, if you need help with your kids, or if your kids need help, they can really just ask anybody, and they're going to be helped. They're going to be cared for. It's a super cool aspect for sure. All right, Ronnie, what you got? You have you spent a professional lifetime away before you came. Like Ali came when she was young, didn't have a lot of life experience before coming here, so you got a good perspective.
Yeah, when you moved to Kauai, the first question people ask me is, "Where'd you come from?" And then the second question is, "Are you retired?" They just figure you must be. Two thoughts on everybody's share. One, I've always thought that it's very nice of the critters to share this land with us, because they were here a long time before us. And two, we say here on Kauai, and maybe they do on your islands as well, if you don't like the weather on Kauai, just wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I switched my background here. You're looking at the sunset down on the south side in Poipu Bay. And what surprised me about living here is just how exquisite, gorgeous, what a magnificent world the Creator has created. And Kauai has such stunning beauty. Along with that beauty, are the birds and the birds singing. And I wondered when I first got here, is it just my awareness? I'm just getting attenuated to this island lifestyle and these birds. So when I went back to California, I went listening for the birds, and I thought, no, it's not just me. Hawaii has hundreds of unique birds, and they're not the same birds as they are on the mainland. So I would say that's the most surprising thing. And people often ask, do you ever get tired of the beauty? And you're all shaking your head because you all know. So yeah, it's the beauty, the birds, just the amazingness of creation.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I mean, just yesterday, I got home in the afternoon, and now the sunset later, so it's nice because you kind of hang out and get the afternoon wrapped up. And it was like 6:30, and I asked her, "What do you want to do?" And she was like, "Let's go out and watch the sunset." And we just like sat in the yard, with the beverage and watch the sunset. And a lot of times, one thing that surprises people about really all the islands, except for Oahu to some extent, is like they say there's not that much to do, right? There's not that much nightlife and stuff, but you don't really need to do stuff when you can just like sit there and watch the sunset. And it's like an hour of the best entertainment you can possibly get watching the sunset over the ocean. So that's a great reminder. All right, Carol, what do you got? What surprised you?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to top everybody brought the topics that are totally 100%. God, I moved here so long ago, I don't even remember what surprised me the most. It surprised me how strong I had to be to stay here, and how strong I had to be to thrive here and integrate myself. It's not easy. I always tell folks, that if you're, a single person, you move someplace totally different, whether it be here in Hawaii or somewhere. As a single person, it's one thing, because you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you only have yourself to answer to. But if you're, 20 years old with a wife and 3 kids, they really are relying on you for, everything. So I was really surprised how strong I had to be, and it, everything, came together for that to make me more independent. And I've thrived through that. On Ronnie's point about the birds, I get surprised every time I see people walking with earbuds in their ears when the parrots are flying overhead and the cardinals are singing. I love to hear that. I think it's just the best thing. I played tennis yesterday afternoon down at Holua, and there must have been, the parrots were just going nuts, just flying across, rah, 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 rah. And you just watch them in pairs, just flying, and they have the whole flock, and it's beautiful. And in the mornings when I walk, the cardinals singing singing. And they say, what is it? They say that if you hear a cardinal singing, someone's thinking about you. And, I think about that when I hear the cardinals. I'm like, wow, somebody's thinking about me. That's really neat. And, something else, we touched on the weather, that it changes every 5 minutes. I can't believe, coming from California, a drier state, it can rain 5 inches in 2 hours and then clear up and be absolutely beautiful. It blows me away how much it can rain all at once and then be done. So I don't know. Everybody had 100% of everything that surprises, because there's every time you turn around, you're in for a surprise. When you live here for a day, a month, 35 years, I'm surprised every day.
I love it. This is great input. Anybody else have anything to add or question for somebody else on all of this? We got through it pretty much right on time. I was planning on about 45 minutes, so we got through it. Hopefully you can't hear the leaf blower. Somebody's outside leaf blowing. I told you guys about this earlier, and sure enough, right in the middle of the show, the guy's leaf blowing outside my window. So that's because there's so much stuff that grows that they gotta constantly maintain our parking lot and our landscaping here at the office space. So
yeah, and people don't really realize that this is summer, right? The days are long, they're warm, it rains every day, grass grows like 2 inches a day. So you have to get out, and my neighbors, they mow at least once or twice a week, because it's just crazy how much grass grows. So yeah, get used to that.
That's something I noticed yesterday watching the sunset, looking at our yard. Was we did the yard on Saturday, my boys and I, and like it looks like it has to be done again, and it's not even 1 week. So yeah. That's a constant.
That time of year.
That's something that you have to consider also if you want land or maintenance of a yard, is that it's a part-time job, or it's going to be an expensive expense in your life, because it needs constant maintenance year-round. It doesn't, there's no winter season where the grass doesn't grow. It's just grows slower, so it still grows. But.
And having land in Hawaii is not like having land in Arizona or Nevada or California. You buy 3 acres here, the jungle will take it back if you don't keep on it.
Absolutely. Yes.
I did have one more thing to add, Dylan, that I just remembered since you asked. No daylight savings time. That was the other thing. But even without daylight savings time, our sunsets and sunrises are pretty consistent year round, plus or minus about an hour. So unlike when I lived in Seattle, where in the summertime, you'd still have daylight at sometimes 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here, 7 p.m. it's dark in the summer. You know, in the winter, maybe 5 p.m., but like 6 p.m. is the median. You know, it's consistent, it's regular. So if you don't like dealing with the whole daylight savings time, come to Hawaii.
That is definitely a good point for sure. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. We will see you guys next week back with the regular Aloha Friday show, and Peter will be back, and the rest of the crew, and looking forward to seeing all of these folks and more on our other weekends. So we'll keep you guys posted via the newsletter, via social media. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do subscribe to the newsletter at livinginhawaii.com, and you'll get the updates on upcoming shows and links. But everybody say aloha, and we will sign off.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.